Hello, everybody. This is Renault. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that like button. And hit that subscribe. Anyway, it's been a while, but I am back, and we're going to do a review of another random old comic. And today we're doing Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, Star Trek The Next Generation was one of the things that really revitalized the Star Trek series. They had comics, a lot of computer games, and of course the show itself was really popular. In fact, that's pretty much the Star Trek that I'm most familiar with, and a lot of people consider most familiar with. There were even several dedicated Star Trek conventions just because this show was so popular. So today we're going to be reviewing this one shot. Well, it's not a one shot, but I'm just going to review this one comic. It's part of an ongoing. Now, I do want you to know that this cover is a whole lot of fake news, but that's okay. I have a feeling that when it comes to the comics, they're playing fast and loose, and they just had an idea of what the show was about, and then they kind of just ran with it. So none of these are technically canon unless they adapted it into the show itself. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction. For those who don't know about Star Trek: The Next Generation, it's kind of based on a utopia ideals and post-scarcity situation where humanity is transcending into the stars and are able to pretty much not worry about. It's based on Gene Roddenberry, and so he had these ideals, and it's an idealized society for humanity. But as you can clearly see, just because humanity reaches its idealized conditions for the most part, doesn't mean there aren't still conflicts and situations that need to be resolved either diplomatically or militarily. And you can kind of see that in this series, where other alien species, even they may not have the same ideals as humanity. Humanity does sign treaties, and as it's part of a space exploration, they initiated Starfleet, and so Star Trek: The Next Generation focuses on the flagship of the entire Starfleet. I don't want to say force, but Starfleet, I don't know, quasi-military scientific exploration to explore the galaxy and then ultimately the entire universe. So the main characters are Captain Picard. He's a very diplomatic individual, headstrong. There have been a lot of fights about which captain is the best captain, There's Captain Kirk, who's more fast and loose. Captain Picard, who I said is very diplomatic. And then there's a couple of other captains that people don't necessarily hear as much about, but are great captains in their own right. There's a Captain Avery Brooks. That's actually the name of the actor who played the captain. But Avery Brooks played the captain of Deep Space Nine. And he was very much down in the trenches, nitty gritty, underbelly. Because Star Trek and the Starfleet, not everything is idealized. And Avery Brooks played the captain of that kind of a situation where there's a lot of dark dealings. And some say that Star Trek Deep Space Nine is actually the best series. It's a great series, definitely. And then there's Captain Janeway, who finds herself in a far-flung quadrant of the galaxy. And so she's trying to get back to Earth, but, she flies through a wormhole, or I forget the specifics, but she's more in the diplomatic side. She's like a cross between Captain Picard and Captain Benjamin Sisko. That's the name of the captain from Deep Space Nine. Benjamin Sisko. So she's kind of a cross between Picard and Sisko. And it kind of, she came off as a little bit more of a contrived captain because no matter what decision she made, it was always right. And she very rarely indulged in the more nitty gritty side, even though she's in a very perilous situation. And then there's the captain of the series Enterprise, whose name I forget. And then there's, and that's pretty much it. So anyway, on to the comic. Sorry about that. The comic review starts at 5 minutes and 30 seconds. So, and by the way, this is all fake news, this cover. Like I said, they probably just commissioned it just to have a cover. She doesn't, this is fake news. This is all fake news. And this is fake news. The only thing, and even this is fake news. The only person who actually appears in this comic is Commander Worf and acting ensign Wesley Crusher. Anyway, let's get started. So, the Captain Picard is on a diplomatic mission. He received an SOS signal from these fish people. And so they are asking to be rescued off of this planet because their planet is doomed. But instead, they're asking that before you rescue any of our people, please rescue these gigantic symbolic statues. You've agreed to save us, but please, we ensure that you rescue these artifacts before you rescue us. And so Captain Picard agrees. And meanwhile, I don't know the specific situation that happened, but a subgroup of people got separated from the main Starship Enterprise. And so they're separated. And I just want to point out something kind of funny. It's like Lieutenant Worf is a species of alien called a Klingon. And they're a very warrior-bent race. And ideally, they're supposed to be noble warriors. We're all familiar with the noble, savage warrior race. But they often fail to stand up to that ideal. And so here and they're just getting into a argument about how to handle this amalgam of spaceships. They've been flung off into a section of space that they're not familiar with. Kind of similar to what I mentioned with Janeway, except not nearly as far. And so the section that they've been flung off to has all these other ships that decided to band together and stick together as a form of protection. Let me just zoom in here. You can see that it's just a weird collection there. And I just like the art direction here. Because he's saying we should try and board that ship. And Lieutenant Commander Worf. Worf actually had several Lieutenant Commander, etc. So I'm not quite sure if he's Lieutenant Commander or Commander in this iteration. But you can tell the art director was like, he and this doctor have a disagreement. And look at this threatening pose he's taking towards this doctor. And even though they're having a minor disagreement, so it would be more like he would be sticking his finger and pointing it at him. Like, even for Worf, this would be an overreaction. But look, it's about like he's about to attack him, but really they're just having a simple verbal disagreement. Lieutenant Worf is the commanding officer, just because he has the highest rank of all these people here. And I don't even know who these people are. It's just Commander Worf and acting ensign. He's not actually an ensign. Acting ensign Wesley Crusher. Anyway, let's skip a couple of pages. Oh no! Oh wait. They're getting sucked in! And you can see that this is a Klingon. Or is this a Vulcan or Romulan? I'm not quite sure of this spaceship. I think it's a Klingon. But anyway. Then another part of that multi-spaceship section starts trying to beam them in. And they're having an argument about how they're going to prepare to defend themselves. And I do want to point out something else that's a little bit hilarious and a little bit out of character, where they're having an argument about how they're going to handle the situation. I'm no soldier, Worf. I'm a doctor. None of us is a soldier, Doctor, but we are under attack. And I just want to point out that Worf definitely considers himself to be a soldier. Like, this is the sort of thing that that happens all the time in video games, where the characterization is off and the art is off and the world building is a little bit off. And so it's not limited to video games. It definitely appears to be happening in this comic. Worf definitely considers himself a soldier. Anyway, they have Lieutenant Commander Data. He's helping to organize the underwater rescue of these spaceships and artifacts. And then there's Commander Geordi LaForge, who's a little bit of a cuck. Anyway, let's skip a couple of pages. And so it turns out one of the tractor beams finally gets a hold of Lieutenant Commander Worf and the Doctor and their ship. The Romulan, or the Klingon one, has given up. It didn't have enough power, so they're being sucked in. And they're being sucked into that section of the multifaceted little amalgam of ships. So Worf is just letting them know that they need to get ready to kill people, because this could be dangerous. But instead, it's a friendly greeting. Welcome! So, oh, well, it's not so bad. Skip a couple more pages. And Deanna is mentioning that when they were speaking to these underwater fish people, she senses that they were being dishonest and that they were hiding something. She's not quite sure what. Now, Commander DeanaTroi, I don't know what her specific hierarchy is, but she is technically a commander. And so she wants to investigate the underwater people up close from Captain Picard. And so he's like, well, do not address yourself as Counselor DeanaTroi. So for those of you who do not know, DeanaTroi is a half Beta-Z, half human. What that means is that Betazoids have a full Betazoid has psychic powers and telepath. They can read minds. They can really powerful ones can, I think, control people with their minds. But she's only half a Betazoid, so she can sense emotion. She can sense feelings. She can sense intent, which is pretty cool in and of itself. And so anyway, going back to the story here, he's like, okay, make sure that you refer to yourself as Commander Troi. Don't call yourself a counselor. And also wear a commander's uniform, because she's actually wearing a Skippy outfit. She is supposed to be the sex appeal of the series. And she was okay at it, but man, did she have some. She was always involved in terrible plots. Like, whenever something bad happened, it would be like, well, why didn't you use your empathic powers to sense bad intentions? Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, there will be like a snarling evil alien just growling at her, and then she'll say something stupid like, I sense anger coming from the snarling, aggressive alien. And it's like, oh, come on. So the thing about DeanaTroi's character is that it's always written kind of inconsistent like that. It's like, she's always getting snuck up. People are always sneaking up on her. Even though she has these empathic and has the ability to sense people's emotions and everything else. And then she'll say something silly like, I sense that the snarling, aggressive alien is angry. And he's like, oh, come on. So she always had the potential to be a good character, because think about how awesome that is, actually, to sense people's intents, to sense people's emotional state. when you're in the middle of a diplomatic mission or something like that. So the potential was there, it's just the writing never was. Anyway, so the guy who was able to take and board the separate party, he's talking very peacefully and diplomatically. He's like, hey, we aren't trying to hurt you. We are your friends. Please put your weapon down, Commander Worf. If the other tractor beam had gotten you, they would have killed you because they did not know that the humans and the Klingons are now at peace. So you all would have been killed if they had gotten a hold of you. So that's pretty cool. That's kind of interesting, and I do like how they show him with pockets. Oh god. One of the things about the series for the Next Generation that always drove everyone nuts is they don't have pockets. Like, it's like, how do you carry even basic things? Oh, these uniforms. Anyway, they show here with Lieutenant Worf having a pocket, but that's also fake news. Star Trek The Next Generation, those uniforms are infamous for not having pockets and being completely and totally impractical. So let's skip a couple of pages. And again, he's talking about more about their situation and how they became an amalgamation of ships together. And he's like, well, okay, but why did you feel the need to drag us in? Well, for one thing, we needed to make sure that those Klingons didn't get you because they would have just killed you. But also, we want your help. Because you see that ship that's floating out there? We need your little runabout shuttlecraft to get on that ship and get the warp technology. If you're able to get the warp technology off of that ship and combine it with your own ship, then we might be able to get everyone free and get everyone out of here. So that's a good plan. Then that way everybody can get home. And I just, foreshadowing here. You remember how I was talking about how DeanaTroi was often portrayed inconsistently? Well, DeanaTroi is on the underwater with the alien species now. And while she was underwater, she got a strong psychic presence. And so she's following it, using her empathic abilities. And so she's swimming. You can, let me zoom in here. She's been swimming so long that she's getting tired and exhausted. But she's talking about how she can sense that psychic presence coming from this rock. And look, there's a hole. She's looking inside. But during this whole thing, look carefully. She's being followed because there was something that, of course, the aliens were hiding. But this is the thing that's so hilariously inconsistent about DeanaTroi. She's so busy sensing and tracking this psychic focus that she doesn't realize that she's being followed. And she's being followed for so long that she's getting tired. So these aliens that have been following her, she doesn't sense them. That's what I've been talking about the inconsistent writing. Also, they're not exactly trying to hide themselves either as they follow her suspiciously. If she were to ever turn around, she'd see that, oh, I'm being followed. But she's tracking this psychic presence for such a long time, and she doesn't even turn around to see what's going on behind her. She doesn't empathically sense that there are people following her. It's one of those silly little things. So, of course, she crawls inside the little hole. And, oh no! Oh! I'm in danger! Oh no! Please don't hurt me! And, oh, this fish creature has psychic abilities. So, it's like a full-blooded Beta Z, but it's not just because earlier I mentioned full-blooded Beta Zeds have full psychic ability and telepathic ability, so they're able to communicate somewhat. Even though she's only half Betazoid, they can communicate because of her bloodline. So the creature has been trapped here underwater. Hey, I can't believe you didn't sense that we were following you with hostile intent. We of the snarling aliens. And so she finds herself trapped. And is like, oh no, I'm trapped. How will anyone able to find me? Well, proper communication, one, where you would have reported to the captain your coordinates before you climbed into a rock and entered a danger zone. Or you could have used your half beta Z empathic abilities to sense you were being tracked by two hostile aliens. Or any other number of things. So this is what I was talking about when she always had this great potential, but she's always written poorly. It's kind of hilarious. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.